I'm very fancy. I'm kind of a big deal.
I'll just let you do the timer stuff. I'll have the raw footage.
Cool. All right. Okay. Hi. Hello. Welcome to Dear PB, a podcast where we hopefully help you become a better speedrunner, but probably won't. I'm Corva May, but you can call me May, or she, or her.
I'm Swoos, and you can call me Swoos, or SWC.
And joining us from Celeste Mountain, it's frozenflygone.
Hi, what's up? Thanks for having me.
So you're unfortunate enough to be here for our first episode that we've ever done, which means you have to sit here while A, we don't know what we're doing, and B, we explain what the whole point of this podcast is and the format and all of that. Our bad, we roped you into that without giving you a warning that you had to be part of that part. But before we go any further, let's begin your run. If you're listening to this in audio format, don't worry, all will make sense in a second. So just count me off and I'll start the timer and you can begin.
All right, I'm gonna get going in 3, 2, 1, woo.
Cool. All right. So this is a podcast where you send us some questions about speedrunning or sometimes stuff that isn't about speedrunning but might be fun to answer. And then we answer them using our combined years and years of expertise. We've brought along our good friend frozenflygone here to do a run of Celeste, all strawberries, right?
Close, all red berries.
Close enough.
All
yeah.
Are they not strawberries?
They are, but there's other colors of strawberries that I will not be obtaining.
I did not know that.
Yeah, there are golden strawberries.
All right, all red berries. That's what I said the first time.
I'm gonna
If
turn
you are
on my
listening,
file timer. Forgot to do that real quick.
Oop. If you are listening to this via your podcast app of choice and not watching this, that's okay. We're not gonna this isn't about commentary or anything like that. The reason why we're having people run games in the background is A, so they can show off a cool game that they run, and B, so that if you're more of a visual person and gets bored by podcasts because you don't have something to watch, use something to watch. And if that interests you more and you happen to listen to the audio format, you can go to our YouTube page, which we'll link in the description, and you can watch the audio-visual form of this episode right here.
Can we have a visual only where there's no sound?
That sounds real bad.
Cover all the bases?
That sounds real bad.
That's just going to speedrun.com and looking up an ARB run.
Just mute the VOD and...
I'm really excited for that podcast episode. A famously non-audio medium. So format of this that every episode's gonna go around this way where we're gonna introduce ourselves, talk to our runner, ask them a couple questions about their experiences in speedrunning, and then we'll answer some questions from you, our loyal audience, which none of you know about this podcast yet, so you're not loyal yet, but you will be. You will be. So, Court.
Yeah.
Do you mind if we ask you a couple questions about yourself?
Absolutely. Would love that.
No, end the episode.
Swoos, do you have the questions loaded?
I do.
Cool, then I don't have to ask all of them.
All right. I will ask the first question.
Do it.
What is the run, person, or event that got you into speedrunning, or at least got you interested in speedrunning?
That is a great question because it's highly relevant to the run that I'm doing right now. So me and my partner, we had just finished playing Undertale, and I just wanted to consume so much more content about it. And so I found this thing called a speedrun that I had never really seen before. And there was this cool person, TGH, doing it for the finale of this convention called Games Done Quick that I had never heard of before. And so I sat on the couch and watched that run, and I was completely blown away. So I logged onto Twitch for the first time ever, created a Twitch account, and I was like, I want to watch TGH play Undertale. And so I go over to his Twitch channel, and he's playing this game called Celeste. And I'm like, what is this? What do you mean he's not playing Undertale? You know, because the GDQ run had been like a year and a half before. And then I just started watching him play Celeste over and over again. I had never played the game before, hadn't even heard of it, but like I've always been a lover of platformers and Super Mario World and stuff like that. So I eventually just gave in and bought the game. And then I started watching a bunch of people play Celeste. on Twitch, and then I finally bought the game on PC and started speedrunning it myself.
Is it your favorite run still?
It is. It was my first speedrun, favorite speedrun. I mean, the category that I learned was any percent, and I don't really run any percent that much, but in terms of Celeste, yeah, absolutely. And how I kind of stuck with it was really funny. My brother challenged me to a race, and so I was in college and he was living at home. We would send each other screenshots of the journal back and forth. So he was the first one to get. He beat me to sub hour, but I beat him to sub 50, and then he was like, "Okay, I think I'm done." And then I got 45, 40. Now I stream it 2 days a week. Never stopped.
Someday you think he'll get back into it and he'll give you a run for your money.
That would be very fun.
My sister thought about doing Luigi's Mansion, but then was like,
that's fun.
She's like, my goal is like 10 hours because I don't know what I'm doing. I'm like, that's fine, that counts. That's still
awesome.
a run.
Yeah,
absolutely.
As long as you have a timer going, it's a run.
It's true.
So our second question might already been answered. What's your comfort run?
I would say that Celeste isn't necessarily my comfort run.
It's
like
a
it's something I can
hand reason, or
yeah, yeah, it's like
understandable. Yeah,
for sure. Like it's something I can always pick up and do, and there's a comfort in that. Whereas I don't really need to like de-rust it or anything. But in terms of like, I want to show this off to someone. My comfort runs are any Hamtaro run that I have the ability to showcase, because it's really not that stressful because it's not a competitive speed game. Doesn't feel like I have to prove anything, and the entire time we just get to talk about how cute the Hams are. It's a good time. So specifically, Ham games is probably the best speed run of the series. So that's definitely my comfort run.
How would you figure this out? Sorry. Who have you learned the most from in your speed running career?
I think definitely in terms of like a pure like gaming and speed running perspective, I've learned a lot from Amethyst, definitely in the streaming sense as well. Amethyst is one of my best friends and is an amazing Super Mario World Kaizo player, and also has done a handful of Kaizo runs. And she has such an amazing ability to know when something is making her happy and when it's not, and to move on from it. Like, sets goals which are are good, but then is very good at being like, you know what, I've realized that I'm gonna stop here on this goal because it's not making me happy. And I think that's something really good to recognize when you're forcing yourself to do something instead of actually enjoying it.
Yeah, I don't know what that's like.
I speedrun a lot of things, and I kind of just like to chase after what is bringing me joy in that way too.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Like, it is a hobby. I think a lot of people forget it's a hobby, right?
Yeah.
And if you're making yourself miserable with it, then like, I don't know, it's not healthy.
It's not worthwhile. There are so many games and runs that you can do that it's, chase after something that you're happy doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, speedrun burnout is super real.
It is. It really is.
I've seen way too many people that are like, well, I hate running this, but I know I can get X time.
It's like,
but I'm going to be miserable the entire time doing it.
Yep.
But like, just take a break.
Yeah.
Take a break.
If it sucks, hit the bricks. You can just leave.
Exactly.
It's
there's
true.
there's no need. Like, I know some people who are like, oh, that run was bad. I know that I can beat it, but you're just invalidating your own success in that way. Like, no, that one was great. That's your personal best. That's great. If I'm sure there are things you can improve upon, and that's good. But framing it as like it's a bad run because I can beat it, I think can be really harmful to your mental health over time.
Obligatory. This world record is awful.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
That kind of stuff.
2 types of world records at the theoretical maximum can never be beat, and completely awful.
Yep.
The only 2 comments that you can have.
There is no, hey, that was a good run. I'm
That's
happy
pretty
with
good.
that.
Yeah. Exactly.
And one question that I want to ask everyone, because I don't feel like a lot of people are going to have very similar answers, actually, is what achievement are you most proud of in your speedrunning career?
That's a really good question. I feel like there's a few different answers to this, so I'm gonna take a cop out and probably do maybe a top 3. Um,
That's
the one
allowed.
that's like pretty like quote unquote obvious, or probably the one the majority of people maybe know me from, is I ran the first Celeste custom map at a GDQ. I ran a map called Glyph at SGDQ 2021 online, and that was an amazing experience. I loved it. The messages from people all around saying, I'm gonna buy Celeste now. I didn't know custom maps were a thing, and now I do. Like that was really amazing, and the devs donated, and that was just an amazing experience. Probably another one is becoming an admin of the Frame Fatales Discord, when they asked me to come onto the team and help organize the marathons, because that was like a group that really got me into speedrunning, and I felt the support. So that was like such an amazing feeling to get to help out and run those things. And I can't think of
Could
third
you
one, so I guess top 2 is there.
just run through? Can you
In a
run through what
month.
Frame Fatales is for those who don't know?
Yeah, absolutely. So Frame Fatales is an all-women speedrunning community run by GDQ. It's a branch of GDQ at this point. It's founded by GDQ Muffins, who is also one of my best friends. I've literally helped take care of her children. And we run 2 events a year, Flame Fatales and Frost Fatales, and we have so far have raised money for Malala Fund, which is like really near and dear to my heart as a teacher.
Frost Fatales in about a month and a week as of time of
Yeah,
recording.
my
If you're
goodness.
watching this in the future, it's okay. You can go back and watch the VODs.
Exactly.
I really love the run where XYZ happened. Yeah, you should go watch that one.
I really loved the run where May beat me in Poker Clicker.
I really love the run where Court beat me in Poker Clicker, and then we'll edit out whichever one was wrong.
You get the special guest edit
Yeah, exactly.
in 2 months.
Or it's like Clue the movie. There's 2 different versions of it.
Yeah, you need to come back after the run to see which ending was
exactly
selected.
Exactly.
Bonus DLC for the podcast.
Speaking of our race at Frame Fatale, Frost Fatales, that's the marathon name. I know the marathon name of the marathon I'm in. What's a speed game you've been dying to talk about?
I mean, that is a really good answer. I guess I'll bundle these together. So I've recently fallen in love with the concept of idle game speedruns. So I love idle games. I have probably played upwards of 15 different idle games, and the reason why I love them so much casually is because my brain has an incessant need to be doing things all the time. And idle games have this magical property of feeling like you're being productive while simultaneously doing nothing. And it is amazing for my brain. And so the 2 idle game speedruns I've really been enjoying are Candy Box 2, which is my favorite idle game of all time. It's kind of like a text adventure in many ways. And Poker Clicker, which I somehow got hundreds of people addicted to.
You got a lot of people hooked into Poker Clicker. I've lost a lot of time just because Court tweeted out, by the way, there's a Pokemon auto clicker, and I was like, oh man.
So many people have played it and been like, this is your fault, and it's so good. And it's actually a pretty amazing speed run in many ways.
Run.
It's a really cool run just because the Pokemon stuff that everyone knows and loves, it has a good bit of RNG, which that's the only speed runs I play with RNG are the 2 idle game runs I talked about, so it's very different for me. And there's a co-op version that May put together, and that's been super fun. It's actually a really great speedrun.
I don't know if that plugin still works. I'll be honest.
Hopefully.
I haven't tried it in a while.
It worked at one point.
It did work at one point.
It was awesome.
That's the justification behind all my projects. It worked once and it doesn't anymore, but
exactly.
It was nice when it did.
Exactly. All right, well, I think that was a good time to ask answer some questions sent in by our wonderful, lovely community that all loves us and has watched every episode so far. Thank you for supporting us from the start.
We have a 100% watch rate on all of our episodes so far. And it's going great.
Exactly.
Gotta keep it up.
You're all doing great. Young Skywalker asks, what is the best thing to compare splits against? Your PB, world record, golds? Don't compare against golds.
First of all, don't compare against golds. I don't really look at splits personally, so that's gonna bias my answer. But I think the best thing to actually run against for your mental health is running against average, because running against average is a great way to actually see, like, in it, because I typically do things in a marathon setting. That's what I love about speedrunning, is showing off in marathons. So I'm a very, pretty much all my streams and all my runs are no reset scenarios. I'm not a heavy resetter. So comparing against average for me is, I'm seeing what this run would be like in a marathon scenario compared to how I typically play the game. And then at the end of the run, when it's all over, I can swap to PB and see, okay, where did I lose time compared to my PB? But I don't have to have that number stress going on when the run is happening. So that's actually my favorite way to run against.
Yeah, I do PB pretty much always. I will sometimes do balance splits if because I run a lot of Pokemon, right? And Pokemon can be really swingy. Or if I have like a mistake late in the run, but the early game was really, really good, then running against balance means I'm not just looking at red splits the entire time.
Yeah, that's helpful too.
So it really depends on what my PB is, what my game is that I'm running for which one that I'll go against. I don't compare against world record unless I'm like on a world record grind. And what I'll do is I'll just have two comparisons.
I think that's cool too.
Yeah,
have, like, the double column going.
Yeah, I know a lot of people will have both comparisons in there and just swap between them as they like see fit. I think having the world record comparison there all the time can be kind of bad. And a lot of times because it's more pressure essentially.
It's so much pressure.
Yeah, I usually do PB also, unless I have like a PB that's, like May said, really, really good in one part and then like not great in the others. So balance kind of gives some leeway where there wouldn't typically be any. But if I'm kind of in a slump and like not doing great, I would just go to average and say, hey, if I can be average, it's good enough right now. I don't really need to worry about getting a PB, or if I'm de-rusting or something, average is really nice to look at.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I am quickly becoming really worried that I did not pull enough questions to fill an entire Berry's worth of time.
Yeah, we're at resort. I mean, I feel like we've talked like about a lot of things already, which is great. It's like, dang, not that far into the run yet.
I was like, oh, each of these questions we'll be able to talk about that for a while. Then I was like, wait,
Okay.
It's actually like a lot of times you kind of just get okay.
What is the worst thing to compare against that isn't golds?
The worst thing to compare against? A different game.
That's true. That makes sense.
Good answer.
But what if your games are so similar?
Ooh, actually, I have a good answer for that. Comparing, this is coming from a Celeste verifier. Please do not put your splits on real time. It means nothing. This is an in-game time game. Stop running real time. Stop submitting real time, please.
To add on to that, don't submit milliseconds to a real-time run unless you've gone in and frame timed it.
Yeah.
Because if your run's like 2.5 hours long, who really cares if
no
you got 530
milliseconds?
We just have milliseconds turned off for Pokemon because
I've dealt with that before as well. Where it's like 2 hours, 13 minutes, 36 seconds, and 940 milliseconds. Like, does that really matter?
No.
I mean, like, if it comes down to the point where there's 2 runs within the same second, then I think that would be on the mods to kind of
figure out,
do that. But
because like the mods are gonna frame time everything anyways.
Yeah.
In a lot of games, so like
unrelatable.
It just means that it's a higher chance that they have to change it.
Right.
Which is annoying. They make it SRC makes it kind of annoying.
It does. Oh yeah.
And you can't turn off milliseconds for only one board. It's either the entire game or nothing. Because I made that mistake once. I turned off milliseconds for everything when some things needed it.
You would think that like SRC would have like an easy way to be like, hey, I'm gonna retime this and have a little note at the bottom that it's been retimed, because that's like 95% of mod notes is just
that's a lot of mod notes. It's just retimed,
Yep.
And yet, no, No.
No.
I've gotten really good at knowing what the markdown symbol for italics is versus bold, though, as a result. So that's cool.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Yeah, I got that committed to memory. Octini asks, what are your thoughts and opinions on running games using an outdated or less optimized route that excludes some tech or skip or exploit because it'd lessen the enjoyment? Either because it would be difficult enough to execute that it's no longer fun to play, or because it takes away so much of the gameplay that the enjoyment of playing the game is lessened.
Firstly, that's a really good question, and I have a direct analog to that in Celeste. So a lot of people, when you're running any percent, right, you'll play 5A versus 5B, and like I personally really like 5B. I learned it very early, and it's good time save for me. So I still recommend that a lot of people play 5B. But then it became the meta that really high level any percent runs would play 6B, and even like mid to high level players in All Red Berries will play 6B. But for me, 6B is such a stressful experience and would take me so much longer to learn, to the point where I wouldn't have gotten to do ARB runs, that I just decided that I'm just going to keep going with 6A regardless of what anyone's telling me. I understand that it loses time, but for me, it means getting to play the category over not playing it at all, and that's way more important to me. So I am definitely of the opinion of like do the strats and do the route that let you play the game and have a good time with it, even if it's, you know, quote unquote less optimal. It's again going back to the whole it's a hobby, you know, do the route that makes you happy, that you're comfortable with.
Plus, like, if you're, especially like when you're starting out or like in the process of improving too, I think it's better to like start with easier stuff and then work in harder stuff.
Absolutely agree with that as well.
I think you can get like, it's easy to be tempted to be like, oh well, that's time lost, right? Where you, because like I'm practicing the strat that I won't end up ultimately using, but like you're still getting experience by the ability that you'll actually be able to complete the run and play the game. Like and both Swoos and I ran Run Hat in Time, and well, okay, I used to run Hat in Time. I've not run Hat in Time in a while.
You're in it once.
Okay. At one
You're in
point
it
in time,
for a month.
I ran Hat in Time, and Hat, there are a ton of high level strats you can do, but like you can get really good times without doing all of them, because some of them are like very, very difficult and save like 2 seconds or whatever. So if you're not going for a top time, then there's no real reason to go for them, when you could just do the easier strat and slowly work in more and more hard strats. Because like your run, even if you're doing like easier strats, your run's still not perfect, right?
Exactly.
There's still time to save. And then in terms of like, if you, I guess like the one exception I would say to this is I have seen instances where people go, oh, I like this strat better, why can't I get a better time even though it's slower? And it's like, well, then you have to learn the faster strat if you don't have time to save elsewhere.
Eventually you have to take the concession of you might not like it, but it saves a minute. Like there's kind of a point.
Right.
But yeah, a lot of that just wraps around to, if you're doing stuff that you don't like doing and you're losing 95% of your runs to a trick that saves like 20 seconds, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
I guess going back to the original question, a lot of games just split categories based on
exactly.
tricks.
I was going to say that.
I guess, for example, Ocarina of Time, you have any percent, which breaks the entire game and finishes it in 7 minutes, and then there's all the other categories, which are, I guess, formerly any percent. But you can kind of just run what you want to do, and kind of still call it any percent. So yeah, a lot of category splits are kind of because of skips and glitches that are just they're too big in the scope of the game to warrant having one category overall. I guess Super Mario 64 is another example, because you would have, if you have one any percent category, it's 5 minutes, but there's so much more content in the game that you could be doing that it would just discourage people from running it.
And if you want to do a skip, or like if you want to do or not do a skip, right, and have a longer version of the game, and there isn't a category for it, you can just make one.
It's true.
All you have
Yeah,
to do is
even-
convince other people to do it, and you have a category.
It's true.
I mean, even if you don't, you can.
You
I
can
know a
just
lot
do
of
it.
games just have Google Docs of people that do some
Yeah.
less than regularly accepted or arbitrary category that they have maybe a couple runners for. There's also
SRC is
category
not-
extensions for the same reason.
SRC is not the end-all be-all. That never has been.
Yeah, we in Celeste we have a unofficial category extensions spreadsheet with categories such as like all binoculars and visible red berries and stuff like that, which is it's really shout outs to the people who help maintain those boards.
Yeah, for Pokemon Sword and Shield, we ended up just letting every single thing that anybody ever thought of being a category extension, which is fun, but there are so many category extensions.
Super Mario World moment.
If there's something you can do in the game, someone will want to make a category out of it.
Exactly. It's like how if there's a game, people speedrun it. If there's a thing you can do in the game, people speedrun it.
Absolutely.
Sweet, I need you to pull more questions
Um,
from the.
let's see.
I have more. I have more for now. I'm just saying, get some ready.
I have the whole list. Don't worry.
Okay. I'm panicking a little bit. I thought I was so well prepared. I was like, oh, I've got 4 questions. Each one will last us 10 minutes because that's how long a question lasts. Thoughts about speedrunning a live service game that keeps growing and has patches every now and then that affect the strats and the speed tech?
I like this question when I saw it.
That is a good.
Sorry, Nyoke, but you asked that. You get credit.
You go
Yes.
first, dude. Go for it.
So I don't really. There's a couple things that I guess I could think of as examples. You have things like Final Fantasy or like live RPGs that are constantly getting updates. Or I know one example I've seen is one of the rhythm games that I've seen in marathons a couple times. I remember when trying to schedule that, the runner specifically said, I can't do this time because my game is offline during then.
Oh.
So it's like, because they went down for maintenance at like from
That's
like 3 to
funny.
4 a.m. in Japan. So it's like, okay, so that's something you would need to work around, knowing when you can play your game in the first place if it goes down for maintenance. But I guess what the question is asking is more of things are going to get updated, possibly. So like, why run them if things just might get updated? And
I have first-hand
yeah, go ahead.
experience with this on a community management setting. In that, as a moderator for Switch Pokemon speedrunning, they have been patching. They patch the Switch games a lot. My cat is upset for some reason. I don't know why.
Hello, cat.
Are you okay? She's fine. They patch the games. They have updates, right? And these have major effects on the speed run. For Sword and Shield, it made it so that the game was just slower. They just introduced more lag. That was a cool thing they did. And it killed the game because I wasn't really in the community at that time, but like in retrospect, it was kind of handled not ideally in that there really should have been a split of the leaderboards because it was like impossible to beat the world record. And because of that, everyone just kind of lost interest. But then with BDSP, the Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl, there was a patch. So the first, like the day 1 patch is extremely glitchy, and so you could beat the entire game in about what's the word? I think like 20 minutes or 15 minutes, something like that.
Yeah, I think it was around 15, 16 time of patch.
And then 2 weeks later, they patched it, and they got rid of like the major glitches. And so there's still like stuff you can do, but it's not nearly as fast, right? And the I guess the way I feel about it is that's something you just kind of have to live with if you're going to run those types of games, is that eventually you won't be able to do that run anymore. With games that are on PC, it's not as big of a concern because you can just down patch if it's on like Steam or something. I know a lot of indie devs will put the speedrunning patch as a Steam beta branch so that it's easy to reinstall it. I've run multiple games that do that. But then if you're on like console, then you don't really have that sort of flexibility. So it's just something you have to live with. I don't think it's a reason to not do something. Everything is ephemeral if you think about it, but you just have to live with it. I know I watched there was a Destiny raid run, a Destiny 2 Last Wish run in GDQ a couple years ago, which I was actually really excited for because I was like super addicted to Destiny at the time. And it was really cool because it was like a 6-person co-op thing, but the strats that they did in that run, you like that run doesn't work anymore because you can't play that version of the game anymore. It doesn't exist.
Yeah, that's another good example of like a live service game. Yeah,
And
like
for
you
me,
kind of just have
that's
stuff that you can't do anymore.
yeah, for me that's probably a reason why I wouldn't run something, because like I don't know when I'll be done with something.
Yeah, I agree.
But like if that doesn't bother you, then heck yeah, go for it. If anything, if you get world record, that's yours forever now. You don't have to defend it.
Yeah, it's interesting. I guess I've never really thought about that because I mostly play older games. Like I just play a lot of SMW ROM hacks that are, basically off of a 30, 40-year-old game, and we've had some stuff with
Is it that
Celeste
old?
patching,
Yeah, I just thought about that. Wow.
but overall it's been very positive and the developers are very into it. Poke Clicker recently just got a patch and it only made the run better, and
Yeah.
they listened to speedrunners as well, which was really, really cool. Because basically I was complaining that the worst part of the clickless run is getting Ammonite and Kabuto in the boss fight, and you can't even get them first try. And now you get a fossil on your first attempt through Mount Moon, which is just like so nice, and
Much
we can
better.
even use it.
Nice.
It's way better, and we can actually like use it in even auto clicker Kando Champion runs now. So it's just like free speed that I appreciated.
I do
And
like when things are faster.
Yeah, it was really nice, and they were like, "Hey, heads up, this is when the patches come in, all this good stuff," because they knew we had it in a marathon coming up. It was very, very kind. So I think it would depend, because if you have supportive devs along the way that are going to be awesome, I think it's like, all right, absolutely no problem. But then you've got like Nintendo, so that can be a bit
Yeah.
more rocky.
On a community standpoint, you just kind of have to like be willing to make hard choices about splitting leaderboards and
Yeah.
like what you're actually going to allow.
Absolutely.
And people will argue. It's not fun for anyone, but that's life, right?
At the end of the day, we're all trying to just make. I hope at least that we're all just trying to make the speedrunning experience the best it can be for everyone, and that's why people are so passionate about it.
I have a Celeste question.
Ooh, what is your Celeste?
How come sometimes you get 3 golden teeth and it turns into a berry?
So yeah, they're not golden teeth; they're seeds.
They are okay. That makes more sense.
They're called seeded berries,
They're
and
seeded,
so
okay.
yeah, you can't touch the floor with them. Is their gimmick. So you get 3 seeds, and then they form together to make a berry. That's how botany works. I know because my grandmother has a PhD in botany, so don't question me.
Ooh.
I
Celeste
believe you.
expert.
I've played this game too. I just didn't remember that.
Yeah, seeded berries are funny.
I guess a good follow-up to seeds. Leggy asks, how can I get better RNG? It keeps killing my runs.
If you find out, please tell me.
Ooh, yeah, don't ask me.
I have no idea. As a Pokemon runner, right? Like the actual not fun answer is the law of large numbers.
Yes.
Like some of your runs will be lucky, some of your runs will not be lucky. But as a person whose luck is a statistical anomaly in many ways, I do not know the answer to this question.
Okay.
I included it here so that you all can help me too.
How do you adapt to RNG?
Cry.
True.
So I guess the only time I've really like had a big issue with RNG is when I was trying to PB grind Candy Box 2 to get it for FF submissions and GDQ submissions. Because like otherwise, when there's RNG in my games, it's just kind of like, all right, it's not really a big deal. I'm just gonna try and do more reps and more runs. But it can get legitimately frustrating to be like, wow, I played that extremely well, but I still got a bad time.
Yeah.
Because of the universe out of my control. That's a very frustrating feeling. And that is why, a lot of my runs don't have RNG because I like to know that I am responsible for 100% of the things that happen in Celeste. And I like that about it. I like that it's all in my hands, but I also do like the adaptability of RNG runs. I think they're very impressive as a viewer. So when I was kind of grinding Candy Box 2, I think it's not really an answer to the question of how I get better RNG, but how do I deal with the RNG follow-up question is a lot of times if the runs are just not happening that day, is just put it down and take a break because brute forcing it, like, it can work, especially because we were talking about the law of large numbers. Like, yeah, if you just do more and more reps, but if you're getting to a point where you're tilted or frustrated, I think the best thing is to just put it down for the day, and then tomorrow you'll get some good RNG. It's just how life works sometimes.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Your runs are going to be a lot worse if you're tilted.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
because
in
then you have the
high-
matter of bad RNG and not playing as well, so it's
Yeah.
just doubly bad, and you don't get anything going. And then when you
Like-
do get someone on good RNG and you're not playing well, you're going to be that much more upset.
Like in high RNG games, it's really about consistency.
Mm-hmm.
Like, can you play the game consistently enough so that when you do get the good RNG run, you don't screw it up?
Right.
And again, if somebody knows how to do that, please tell me.
So what you do is you reset at any instance of bad RNG until you get like the 1 in a million
Ooh.
run that is
Okay.
perfect.
Okay,
Don't actually do that.
that
but
sounds fun.
that is how you
Remember
burn
how we were
out.
talking about burnout earlier? Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, if you have 1 million resets and 2 completed runs, that's a ratio.
Hmm.
That is a ratio. Yes. It's not. Oh man. I mean, as someone whose primary speed game, I'm at like 13, including no resets out of 500 something.
Wow.
I guess yeah, it could be worse.
I've seen people in not RNG heavy games that have like 10 completions out of like 500 attempts, and
Jeez.
that's a lot. I think my main speed game is Hat in Time, as was mentioned earlier. I have maybe 120 finished runs in like 1,300 attempts, which
That's actually a very high.
I try and stay around 10% completion.
Yeah.
Especially for a game like that where it's not very RNG heavy. Just because finishing runs is just good for me, I think.
Yeah.
It is good.
It
And
is
then if
good.
I'm resetting 35 times in a row, it's just upsetting because I
Which
want
is
to just
why
get through a run.
I run games where I don't, or that's not in my hands.
Yeah,
It is
the
not up
game
to me
resets
if I
for you.
finish. The game decides if I get to play it or not. I'm just at the winds of fate.
Yeah,
I
I
think
also kind of I end up resetting way more once I start getting better runs. Like when I'm learning a game, I'll do like 10 for 10 completed runs because you're going to be saving time pretty much no matter what.
Yeah,
my ratio is probably one of the highest completed runs out of not in like anyone who plays Celeste, probably just because when I stream, that's the only time I do runs. I can't do offline runs.
I hate doing offline runs.
I can't.
Every time I do offline runs, I PB, so I should just stop doing them
I
because I don't record them.
I am the opposite. I get my mental is really bad when I'm doing offline
Same
runs.
here.
That's when I get like really in my head about splits and whatever. And so instead, oh come on, Seeker, please play nice so I can finish my sentence. All right, thanks. I finish runs like all the time. Like say I'm doing it like it's like okay, I'm gonna finish 1 or 2 runs this stream, and I almost always do it. And maybe a few of them are like reset in city or something, but I would probably guess I have like a 50 to 60% completion ratio,
That's very high.
which is like ridiculous, probably.
Let me check mine for Celeste because I ran that back in the day.
I fall into the early reset often trap very
too.
easily. And then I burn out. It's really good. And that's why I run a bunch of different things.
Yeah, I think it helps. I also like besides Celeste, I am constantly picking up new speed games, and it's just early learning time save, which is really nice.
Yeah,
you gotta diversify your options.
Yeah, exactly.
My reset ratio for Celeste was around 12% completion. So
What's my hat one? Let's see.
how many
It's not
runs did
good.
you attempt for hat?
Not that many. Any percent hat and time. 17 out of 294.
Wow.
Not as bad as I thought it was going to be. And I'm sure if I pull that into time loss run, it'll be like, oh, 80% of them are the first 4 splits.
Yeah, that's how games go. That's all of the games I play now are just reset in the beginning, and then once you get past the beginning, it's decent.
I mean, it's easy to, it's like the main problem with doing that too is because you just get so bad at late game.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Like I've been
That's a
running
big reason.
Pokemon XY, and this is not my fault for once because I don't have a choice that the game lets me play it or not, right? And I don't remember how late game goes anymore. I'm like winging it super bad just because I can't get on runs.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of practicing like ILs.
I'm also not the
So-
biggest fan of practicing.
I like
So
ILs.
half the time when I get a run that's like late, it's like, all right, let's hope my muscle memory works properly now.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Do this right. The one of the games that I speedrun now, Superliminal, it's a shorter game. It's about 23 minutes for my PB, and the hardest levels are like the last 3
Yeah, it's
in like the last 15 minutes. So it's like I keep resetting in the first level. It's only 2 minutes long, but I'm just going to get screwed by the next 20 minutes of run. So there's definitely a balance to be had of when you're resetting and where, and if you're going to kind of put in the work over time, I guess, to make up for all your early game resets, if that's something you want to do. Which I don't. So I kind of end up just screwing myself over, but
I'm kind of the opposite, funny enough. I practice a lot of late game, and I don't practice city at all, or site, really. I don't practice those 2 levels, because I know I'm going to play them so much.
yeah, I think that's the most optimal
I don't
way to
need to do
practice,
that.
honestly.
And so I kind of just go by luck and hope in those first 2 chapters. But at the end of the day, they are such a small percentage of the run. It doesn't matter if I lose 5 seconds there. I'm gonna gain 20 in Summit. So I think it actually mathematically works out for me to do that strategy.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's a really good way to do it, because even if you have like a high reset ratio, say 10%, 90% of your runs that you attempt are going to get through probably like the first level anyways. So you're doing that level so much more often than you're doing the last one, which you're only doing 10% of the time.
You're inherently practicing it anyway.
Exactly. Yeah.
I've never IL practiced prologue in my life, and I don't need to. I don't
because you've
need
done
to.
it 600 times.
My notes for the start of Alpha Sapphire have just gotten shorter and shorter and shorter for up for the first 4 or first 5 badges, because that's like pretty much the beginning, right, up until you get Latias, and to the point where I don't need them unless I'm rusty, and then I go back and I go, I maybe need these notes again. It's been too long.
I just rely on my splits to tell me where to go.
It doesn't work when you need more information than that, though.
Yeah, well, if there's actual movement in the game, then yes, but
yeah, that doesn't tell me how to menu, unless I change my splits to just tell me how to menu. I know there's a live split plugin where you can correlate each split with some notes, and then as you split through, it'll show the notes. It's very neat. But why do that when you can just put all of your notes in the split?
The splits. That's what I do for Powerpuff Girls. Powerpuff Girls is all my notes in it.
What is too far when it comes to splitting? Like what is too many splits in say a game that has an auto splitter?
Oh, I am a split minimalist. There are people who have first of all, rooms. Okay, so I'm just gonna be talking about Celeste here. Yeah. People who have room splits, what are you doing? I'm sorry. Come on. That is too much information for you to parse what you're doing, unless you're doing a city IL. subsplits. Okay, I can like kind of see the point of subsplits, but it's still a lot. It's still a lot.
I
I
could see
think-
the value to room splits in that, like, if you're looking at where to practice, then you have that
Yes.
information. Like, I don't think that's really useful in the
In-
moment, but in retrospect,
yeah.
I can see
In
it.
ILs, I
in
have
ILs,
respect for
for
sub
sure.
splits
Yeah.
and for room splits, but in full game, if you have a room split on, I don't trust you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, for Hat in Time, there's kind of a split. It's not a very even split in the community about just doing level splits versus movement and level splits. So between each level, you have like a 12 seconds of movement to pick the next timepiece you do, and people have splits for that. And it's like, okay, like
I would say that the minority, though. I don't see it very often.
yeah, for sure. I would say it's probably like 80-20 of
if
not
that.
doing it, but still they exist, and it's like I get it, but at the same time, you're kind of just inflating your song or deflating your song best by making it better because you
Yes.
technically have more opportunities to save time.
The only time I would do like sub-level splits would be like if there is two very distinct phases to the split, like Hat's finale. There is a stage and a boss.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I do sub splits for things like that. Like for Celeste, I had sub splits for each level in Summit.
Right. Like I know.
Yeah, that
like
makes sense.
I have a summon entry and I have a 3K entry. I think that
Mhm.
makes sense because summon is just like so long.
It's so long, and there's so many unique parts to it.
Exactly.
The actual answer is that only you're right about your own splits, and thus everyone
True.
else is wrong.
Dang.
You should have one split for your game.
Yeah. I did know somebody was using all trainer splits for Let's Go for a bit.
Wow.
We split on every trainer fight. It was to try to get more data. There's a point where you have so many split, like if your game doesn't have an
so
auto
much
splitter.
data.
Well, there's a point where if you don't have an auto splitter, you're losing time splitting.
Yes.
Even with
like
with the foot pedal, you gotta think about it.
And then you forget half the time anyways. And
Yeah,
it's gonna make
exactly.
it worth it.
I know Celeste has like ruined me in that way that I am so bad at manually splitting. Like
Me too.
Garbage.
Yep. I used to run games without auto splitters, and I started running ones with it, and I'm carried so hard by them.
Yeah. That was a really good reflection, except for that one room I had to do like.
You just gotta it just becomes part of the muscle memory. Honestly,
Yeah. That's true. That's true.
Part of me wants to get a foot pedal.
All four of those.
But it's
desks
so
were in the same
unnecessary.
room. That's hilarious.
Just get a keyboard.
I have a keyboard.
And
I have
put
a
it on the
little
floor.
I have a separate little 6-key keyboard that I use for splits.
Yeah, just use that and
All right. Speaking of
just
Summit,
use that as a foot pedal. Hey,
this
look, it's
chapter
Summit.
is 15 minutes long. with
Yay!
all very lengthy. This is an endurance test for sure.
It's got good music though.
It does have good music, which if you're in the
Very fun
audio
level.
version of the podcast, I do not know if you'll be hearing. Probably not. Probably not.
I'm recording game audio.
Yeah, but I'm thinking about like if that would be good if you're just getting all the sound effects and not the actual video.
True.
I don't know. You'll know when you're watching this because you'll be hearing it.
We'll have made it.
That.
We'll have made a decision by then.
Were we supposed to think things through before we started doing this?
Absolutely not.
This whole idea was made on a whim anyways. I don't really expect much. I was like, hey, we should start a podcast. And May's like,
and then I
okay.
sent an eye emoji, and now we're doing it.
And here we are.
And now we've roped other people into it.
Wow.
This is why when we have ideas, it's everyone else's problem. I'm out of questions, by the way. That's all the questions I had queued up. Now I know I should have 5.
Come up with your own questions.
What?
Come up with your own questions.
I don't have any questions. I know everything.
Right.
That's why I'm doing this podcast.
I have a question.
If I had questions, people would not think that I know things anymore, and then they wouldn't listen.
This is an open question to everybody. What is your favorite game to watch, but you would never want to play?
Ooh. Play your
This one's up there. Celeste is up
there. Speedrun.
Speedrun?
Or play.
Or play?
I can think of I'll try and think of 2 separate answers.
I really enjoy watching like team shooters. Like CS:GO and Valorant. But boy howdy. No. You said either.
Oh. No, like what speedrun do you like watching the most for a game that you would never play or speedrun yourself?
Okay. Celeste is up there because I don't actually hot take. I don't actually enjoy. Okay, I did enjoy playing Celeste until Summit, which I hated.
Fair enough.
Fair.
I hate the wind. I hate the wind.
A lot of people hate the wind.
It was really
I've never had
frustrating.
an issue with the wind.
I hate the wind. But I enjoyed the game until then. But it looks very like my hands would break.
That
And
will
also,
happen.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't know how to wave dash.
That's fair.
You can learn in game how to do it.
I know, but I've
The
never
bird will teach
like
you.
Yeah.
I've never physically been able to wave dash, and so
Sure.
I don't think I would be very good at Celeste.
Fair.
Oh, there's a thing back there. There's probably some other ones too. They'll come to mind. Somebody else give your answer while I think.
That's a good question. I would probably I don't like 3D games that much. Like I love playing Super Mario Galaxy, don't get me wrong, like that's one of my favorite Mario games. I'm so accustomed to 2D platformers at this point though that I think speedrunning 3D platforms like similarly to Hat or similarly to like Mario 64 or anything would be so hard for me because my brain is just hardwired to do 2D. So
Well,
that's probably my
sense.
speedrun answer.
The problem with 2D platformers is that you never have an opportunity where you don't know where you are in the Z axis.
Right.
Yeah, there's really no like depth perception to have to worry about.
Exactly. Which is like, what's even the point if you're not missing, like, you don't have to, if you're not like losing like a minute because you missed something because you were off by 4 pixels in a dimension your eyes don't process.
In a dimension that you don't understand how to look
Yeah,
at.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's never happened to me before.
Can't wait for 4-dimension games to start popping up.
I feel like, isn't that just like Monument Valley? Isn't that the closest thing to that?
Probably.
Or like Fez? Fez is a cool game.
Oh, okay. And I have my casual answer now. Stardew Valley is a game that I just cannot get into. I can't, like, it's very funny because I love idle games, and idle games don't really have endings, but I can't play games that don't end. And so for me, Stardew was just like, I don't care to keep playing this because there's nothing, like, the point is that it has no point a little bit. Like, there's stuff to do, but there's not stuff to do, you know? So, like, same with Animal Crossing. I just couldn't get into anything like that.
I feel like Stardew is like actually less that way than a lot of the other games in the genre too.
I agree, and that's why people were like, "No, I think you'll like this one." There's like, you know, and I just like still really couldn't get into it, and I still can't get into Animal Crossing.
Oh, a game I really like playing in that same vein, but did not enjoy speedrunning was The Sims. I tried the Sims Max career run. Really boring.
Interesting.
If you're a Sims runner listening to this, no hard feelings about your game. I fucking love The Sims. Okay, I've broken the seal. You can swear on this podcast now. But
R-rated speedrun content.
It's now an adult rated.
No, we're still PG-13. You just said it once. Don't worry.
Ah, true. Yeah, you get one per.
You get one.
We'll edit out any others.
But yeah, I did not enjoy the run as much as I'd hoped.
Shit.
My favorite to watch, but I would never want to run, and it's been this answer for like 5 years now, is Super Mario Sunshine. I've tried running it. I did awful at it, and I hated every second of it, but I love watching it. It is a very high skill level game.
Yeah. It is.
But I'm horrible at it.
A runner I'm friends with, ran it for a bit, and it looked miserable. But I also don't much care for Sunshine, so
fair. It is my least favorite Mario game, but
Wind Waker is another one like that. Actually, where like I love Wind Waker; it's one of my favorite Zeldas. But I also love functionality in my hands.
Yeah.
And so, I will not be running Wind Waker.
Okay, I guess similar question then. What game would you like to run but can't because of the technical difficulty of it?
Pokemon Ranger.
Oh, Pokemon Ranger is also my answer.
Yeah,
I love Ranger. I've
literally
thought about getting into I love the Ranger series so much. Also, I would really want to run Almia if I was gonna do it, and the double whammy with Almia is that it is so long that I physically don't have the time to practice it or learn it. I also don't have a capture card for a DS. And the hand spinnies. That's the triple whammy of a game in an ideal world. I would love to speedrun Almia, and it is just not in the cards.
I bought a new copy of Ranger to run it because I don't know where mine went from when I was a kid. And then I started learning it, and I was like, I physically cannot move my hand enough. I'm too old. I can't do
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, and it's really unfortunate because I've watched Orchestra run it, and I'm like, this looks like fun. This really looks like
Yeah.
there's a lot of cool tech to it, but it's just not in the cards. Oh, that's not close. A lot
there's
of the
also-
longer runs are probably the technical constraints, quote unquote, is like I just don't have time to do long runs. Like I had such a blast playing Heart Gold Soul Silver. I would love to be able to run that again, but it's just too long. I can't.
Yeah, Heart Gold
I
is
don't
a
have
longer
time.
one. Have you considered Oras? It's nice and
Again,
quick. It's only
capture card.
like
Only
Oh,
3
right.
hours.
right. Look at you can run emulator.
That's
That's true. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah, it's allowed.
That's very nice that it is allowed. I would love to learn more Pokemon runs, but the problem with Pokemon runs mostly is the time constraints.
They're very long.
They are long
Yeah,
games.
It's very frustrating when it's like, well, it's 8 p.m. and I can't do more attempts because I do have to work tomorrow, and I do
Yeah.
not want to be stuck in a run till 1 in the morning.
Yep.
I have to be responsible. So we shouldn't give an answer.
Yeah, so
No, you did. It was Mario
mine-
Sunshine.
No, that was for the last question.
This
Wait.
is a different question.
Yeah, that's a new question.
Wait, what question?
I'm asking so many questions. Keep up.
Oh, it's very physical. Yeah. Okay.
So, Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door
Yeah.
is
Ooh.
my favorite. It's my favorite game of all time.
It is
but
my
these-
favorite game of all time.
I know.
Oh, y'all have so much
That's
fun.
why we're doing this
The-
podcast together, because we're so in sync like that.
The speedrun for it is one of the hardest runs that I've seen
It's
Yeah.
crazy.
in terms
It
of
is.
the
It really
glitches
is.
done, and the skill floor is ridiculously high just to get a run done
Yep.
in like a glitched category. It is incredibly difficult. I spent like 6 hours trying one skip and didn't get it once, and it was
Ugh.
like, all right, this game is not for me, but
I had a
it's
similar
a cool
thing
run.
with Chibi
That was
Robo,
before Palace Skip was found.
because Chibi Robo is another one of my favorite games of all time, and I started learning the run for it. And it has a lot of skips that are very like camera angle dependent.
Mm,
Oh.
that's
That's-
fun.
It does not work for my brain. I just
Yeah.
can't do it. Also, that game has a 50-50 shot of just every run dying,
Oh god.
That's fun.
because it's just
Yeah.
it's just a 50-50 gambling thing that you do to get enough money. And I was
Coin
like,
flip.
ooh, I don't know if I
That does not sound fun in the slightest.
I don't know
honestly.
if that is healthy for me. I say a Pokemon speedrunner.
I wouldn't 50% be good? Like better
Yeah.
than usual? I know
but
for Chibi Robo
50%?
that 50-50 is like 2 hours into the run.
It's really
too,
late in
so
the run,
that's,
yeah,
that's
that's
kind of
really
why
late.
it's that's why it's an issue.
Sucks. I really love that game.
Yeah, it's definitely hard like looking at a game and being like, I really want to do this,
Mhm.
but it's just so
can't.
difficult where I like physically couldn't do it.
Yeah. Well, like if I
Um,
did, I would have such a bad time with it, like getting to that point,
Mhm.
Right.
that like it wouldn't be good mentally,
Yes.
or like I'd be like, in order to do that, I have to give up every other game I have and just dedicate myself to that, and I wouldn't want to do that either. The first
Yeah.
game I ever ran is by far the hardest game I've ever run too, and like part of me like, I should go do more runs of Crosscode. It's really cool. But I'm also like, in order for me to do that, the amount of time I'd have to dedicate would just be like
Too
all of
much.
it.
right.
And so like maybe someday I'll do it when I have like if I have like more time, or like I just kind of burn out and all the stuff I'm doing right now, because it is a really cool run. But not right now. Not in the cards right now.
Yeah, if I wanted to get
Understandable.
like sub 30 in Celeste, I'd probably have to stop like everything else that I was doing, and so I'm just not gonna do that. I've always resigned myself that I am much more a jack of all trades speedrunner than anything else. I'd rather be decent at a bunch. Oh, that's not. I need the berries. I'd rather be decent at a bunch of runs than specialize on any one. And that's really not a knock against anyone who only plays Celeste. I know there's a bazillion of you, and I love you. It's not a knock, because you're very talented at it and you
Yeah.
have the patience. I don't. I can't hyper focus on one thing. I like to be doing.
Yeah,
multiple
I feel that too.
things.
Also, because like it's also cool to just to like get to know people in different communities.
It is.
Like I don't know, I'm the hat community's only full-time commentator, so like God knows I
Yeah,
don't
that's
like
fun.
I don't run stuff actually. I just talk about it.
You know about the game, and that is okay.
Exactly.
That is important to have.
Yeah, I care much
I
more
would.
about being in events and focusing my time on getting those kinds of things ready than like PBs or time or anything like that.
Yeah, like I care about PBs. Do not get me wrong. I would love to have a better time in my main game of choice, but I would also like to do other stuff sometimes too.
Yep,
Yeah.
That's about contrast.
it is.
All right. Another similar question. What's a game that you love but would never speedrun because you don't want to, not because it's too hard?
Like
Like
and
you
like
would hate.
and like
You
I
would
don't
hate running it.
well like because I don't want to like ruin it for myself. Is that like
However
the
you want to
idea?
interpret it.
There are a lot of games that are like super like there's a incredibly high like barrier in terms of just like knowing every possibility ever. Like a lot of like strategy games are like that. Like I really like Into the Breach. I think it's like one of the best designed games I've ever played, but I would not want to run it having done no research into it because I feel like it's the type of game where it's just like we're like kind of like roguelike games where it's all about like tons of decision making on the fly and knowing all possible RNG things and stuff like that. And it's just like my brain cannot remember stuff.
Right, I feel that. In a similar vein, I would say Hades for me.
Yeah,
Like,
that's actually the other thing I was thinking of.
I like semi-casually like speed ran Hades, kind of. I preferred high heat stuff, but I never wanted to actually submit anything to the boards or learn high level strategy. I liked just kind of going along with what builds I enjoyed versus the competitive builds or the
What is
competitive
meta?
aspects that it's like the more I read about the game, the less I wanted to speedrun it.
Yeah.
and so I never speedran it seriously. I just liked making my number on my file go down.
I was trying very hard to explain what I was trying to get at without specifically mentioning Hades as a like example of another game like that. And I don't actually know why I was doing that.
Hades
Because
is
the Hades
definitely
runs
my
are like super
answer.
cool, but it's another
They're
game where it's
amazing.
like I started looking into doing Chain of Memories. And Chain of Memories is a bit like that too, where it's just like you need to know a lot about how this game does RNG and like
what builds you're looking for.
yeah, it's just a lot of
yeah.
burden of knowledge and memory stuff. And memory stuff I'm very, very bad at.
Me too.
Granted, of the two people who host this podcast, I am the one who remembered what day we are recording. But
Okay, and
so I do have that going for me in terms of memory.
ratio.
There's definitely a couple more, like some of like the live service stuff I've looked into doing. There was a point where I was like, maybe I should do Destiny 2 runs when I was like real into Destiny. And that's another one where it's like, in order for me to do Destiny 2 runs, I'd have to stay on it's again, it's very ephemeral. The game changes all the time. And B, I would have to still stay like up to date on the meta with Destiny, which is like a job.
That's
Like
a
when I
lot.
was when I was playing Destiny full time before I was doing speedrunning, like that was a lot of time, and I don't think I'd have time to do both.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have to answer your own question. You can't just ask these questions and not give us an answer.
I don't know.
What berry
do
did I
not know.
miss? Hold on.
Let me think. Come up with another question while I think.
I don't have access to the document anymore.
That
doesn't mean I lost the link. The cool thing about the way that we've decided to set this up is in most situations when you're making a podcast, you can edit out all the dead air. But because we've decided to do this in a way where we have a live timer going during the same time, if there is a situation where we want to edit stuff, we can't do it, which is why we're really good at planning.
We'll splice it in.
Well, you should splice me having to go back into 3K for a berry I missed, apparently. So
we'll do
worry.
there'll be like production swoosh who's like, "Hi, I'm here to fill time." That's my swoosh
Hello,
impression.
I don't
here's
even know
the-
what. I don't even
here's
understand
the
what berry
3
I
minutes
missed.
that we
It's
lost.
like the third berry. Like, where the heck is that?
I do like that the berries become like frost berries afterwards.
Yeah, they're
they
really
ghost
cute
berries.
like that. Yeah, I think it should be the berry after this one. We'll find out.
I guess my answer would just be earlier 3D Mario games. Like, I've run 64 in the past. I already talked about Sunshine. Galaxy, I tried running and just did not enjoy it, but I like the game casually. It's a long run, and there's like, meh. It's just not for me.
It is a really long run. Galaxy's a good answer because I also like adore Galaxy, and just don't have the time or energy to speedrun it.
Right.
Oh, I do know what berry it is. I just like completely forgot to get it. This category's hard.
That's
You can
good
just
memory.
make the
It's
category
hardest part.
all red berries except for one.
this one, yeah.
We joke about that. You call it a MRB when you miss a berry.
That one.
Most red berries.
We did
Yeah.
it.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, I got it. I just missed
Man,
that
All
one.
right. Speaking of which, what is the most arbitrary category that you've seen for a game?
Okay,
That
okay,
I've
okay,
seen
okay.
or that I've completed.
Both.
Both?
Ooh.
Okay, so
That
there's a
I've
category
seen-
in
Go ahead.
there's a category
I guess
in
let's.
Sword and Shield. No, I'm excited about this one. There's a category in Sword and Shield called Flex on Mum, right? And the way that Flex on Mum works is that at the beginning of the game, your mom gives you 30,000 polka dollars, and what you do is you go through the early game, you get that money, you walk to the first town, you buy a $30,000 shirt, you run back to your town, walk up to your mom, and spin in a circle and strike a pose. And when you strike the pose, that's when the timer ends. There's also a category called Flex on Mum Socially Distanced, which is because somebody did the pose like in another, like the next room over, essentially. Like, you still see your mom on the screen, but just barely, essentially. And so they have the only time for that board. It entirely exists as a joke. But I thought it was funny.
That's hilarious.
Very important category extensions.
Have you done Flex on Mum?
I have. It's
Nice.
the first Sword and Shield run I ever did.
I love that.
Because I've only run Sword and Shield category extensions.
Nice.
Because they're way more fun.
Yeah.
My time's very bad though, because I was playing on physical at the time.
Gotcha. The most arbitrary one that I've ever seen is Super Mario World in the 6, where you go to Bowser's Castle, you like do an 11 exit run, and then you glitch yourself into the 6 in Bowser's Castle, and the time ends when the timer runs out and you die. which is so good. And then there's an A6, which is the sequel, where you block dupe a 6 and then lock yourself in it.
Okay.
So that combination of runs is hilarious and arbitrary and beautiful. In terms of silly categories that I've done, so I have a reward on my channel where you can request a run of either Super Mario World or of Celeste. So I'll talk about both. The Super Mario World one that I did was Max Score, which was really, really cool actually, where I like glitched wigglers into giving me millions of points at a time. That was a really fun category that I did. You basically just find these two wigglers that you can bounce between, and the game doesn't understand how it works. In Celeste, I've done a variety of wild things, like grabless all red berries, which is probably one of the hardest things I've ever done in Celeste. But probably my favorite one was Every Block is a Dream Block mod, where just every single surface becomes a dream block.
Are those the ones that you do the other end?
Yeah, the sparkly ones that you like dash through. So every block is a dream block, so you can't like wave dash on the ground because you will just dream block into the ground or the ceiling. That was one of the most fun things I've ever done in Celeste, probably. Very, very good.
Okay, so I do have a question. Was this all a ploy to be able to like advertise DO %?
Oh no, I want to talk about All-Star %.
Okay.
Donkey Konga 2. You start the game, you play All-Star, time.
Oh my god.
That's a good one. That's a good
And
one.
it's a main category for Donkey Konga 2. There's All Star.
It should be.
There's Losing My Religion %. There's Donkey Konga 1 has all the small things %.
Oh
Yes.
my gosh. Is that the rhythm game that uses the bongos?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
There's also a platformer that uses the bongos.
Oh, I know. I have the
Donkey
bongos
Kong
in my
Jungle
home.
Beat.
At one point had that, yeah.
I literally, for my
Jungle Beat?
22nd birthday,
Yep.
yeah, Jungle Beat. For my 22nd birthday, my best friend bought me Jungle Beat bongos.
Yes.
That's another game I actually like love watching the speedrun of, but would never learn the speedrun.
It's so goofy.
I did commentary for Lori for Freedom Ultimate. It's like really fun to commentate, but like doing it looked so hard. Like
Yeah.
so physically painful.
We have a couple fun categories in Hat. Like there's burger on the right %,
Yeah.
which is
I guess
you get like these relics, and one of them's a burger, and you build the burger on the right relic
on
platform.
the right relic because
That's
it
the whole
costs more than the
category.
left one.
There's double sunglasses %,
That's a good one.
where in Deadbird Studios you can get sunglasses, but you can also get another pair of sunglasses, like over your first pair of sunglasses. So time ends when you're wearing 2 pairs of sunglasses.
I love that.
Two of the ones that I've done are also very arbitrary. There's DO %, which is a very good run. You get the time stop hat, which lets you slow down time, and you need to use it on one of the boss's knife attacks. So you basically slow down time and don't get hit by a knife, a la Dio. Another one is Josefa %. Josefa means aunt in Spanish, and you go to the Owl Express. You collect all the evidence.
Oh.
You collect enough evidence to blame your aunt
for murdering your
which
aunt.
is a cardboard cutout of, I guess, your aunt, and that's the whole thing.
If you haven't played Hat in Time, there's a stage where like it's a murder mystery, and you collect evidence. At the end, you can pick who the murderer is, and it doesn't matter who you pick.
Yeah.
And one of the suspects, and it's your aunt in the lore who gets murdered, and one of the suspects
it's an
is
owl
your
that
aunt.
gets murdered.
Oh, that's beautiful.
It's an owl that gets murdered, and you can also blame the victim for doing it themselves.
That's what I'm thinking of. The owl gets murdered, and you can blame the owl for doing it.
I love that.
Yeah. See, in the speedrun, it's always the same one because you only get one thing of evidence. So I forgot the exact.
You don't get any evidence in the speedrun.
Well, okay, we look at a piece of evidence.
It defaults you to 1, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
All right. Well, time's coming up.
Time. Time. Ah.
Oh, it's fine. Don't worry.
1:11. Oh wait, you have an
RTA. It doesn't matter.
I have an in-game timer.
Who cares? Why do we even have a timer?
We were just talking about this.
I got a 106.
Goodness.
It's so people watching.
Time.
It's so people watching can timestamp to the timer.
It's so we know how long we've actually been recording, even though Zencaster tells us.
Count the filler questions challenge.
Speaking of which, I don't think Zencaster recorded any of my audio.
Nice.
But I was recording it all locally, so it's fine.
All right, that's good. Yeah, there's my journal. Yay. Pretty all right run. Besides, I probably lost 2 minutes because I dropped that berry. So this would have been a 104, which is a very good time. Anything under a 105 is fantastic. I have a
what is your PB in this category?
I have like a 102.40.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, speaking of getting a good time, I hope you had a good time.
I did. This was very fun chit-chatting with y'all. I hope that people found insight from our discussion.
Thanks for joining us for our inaugural episode of this, Dear PB, the podcast you're listening to right now. That will be back with more episodes in the future, so you should subscribe to it in your podcast.
Do we have any hints towards our next guest?
Our next guest is a Pokemon runner that I told to not run Pokemon.
All right, we'll leave it at that.
Could be anyone. Because I was like,
literally could be anyone, yeah.
I was like, I can get Pokemon runs whenever I need them. So I know a lot of people in that community. So please do something different so that it's not just. So that also because not a lot of 1 hour Pokemon runs.
True. I mean that makes sense.
Yeah.
So thanks for having me. This was really fun. I appreciate
if you have a question that you want us to answer and provide insight into your life in a more personal way, nailed that, you can send an email to dearpb@maybreak.com. That is DEARPB @MAYBREAK.com. Or if you go to our Twitter @DearPBPod, which you should follow, there's a form, like a Google form, where you can fill out, and then you don't have to send an email, which it's like the future. Send us all your questions, because we need more questions to answer, as I clearly did not pull enough.
We had a myriad of questions.
Court, do you have anything to advertise?
Sure, yeah. I recently got Twitch partnered, which was pretty cool. If you like that kind of thing, I stream at twitch.tv/frozenflygone. I mostly, half of the time I play Celeste and half the time I play Super Mario World, so tough platformers is kind of my jam. And yeah, that's a lot of what I do. And watch Frame Fatales.
Watch Frame Fatales. That's Frozen Flygon with an E. We'll put a link in the description, in the notes.
Yeah, for all you Pokemon knowers, I spelled it with an E at the end. And for the non-Pokemon knowers, Flygon is Pokemon, and my
Pokemon.
emotes are not just an original character, like someone asked me the other day.
Really?
Oh yeah. Okay, someone was like, "Is that your OC?" And someone was like, "Yeah, from Nintendo."
Nintendo was so kind to make you an OC.
That's
Right?
so messed up that Nintendo stole your OC.
Ridiculous. I don't even get royalties.
Unbelievable.
Once again, I'm Corvin May.
I'm Swoos.
I was Frozen Flygon.
Thanks for listening. I don't have an outro yet.
Have a good morning, evening, night, or afternoon.
That's our outro now.
See you next week.